How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. Welcome to my channel and welcome to this week's one and only episode of Should You Summon? We do this thing every week where I answer the question, should you summon on that week's banner or banners, so on and so on. This one, for certain people, is a phenomenal banner, right? Why? Well, Comet. That is the entire reason. He has a very strong argument for any normal hero to be the single best AoE DPS in the game, certainly AoE DPS magic damage. He is kind of built and coded as a single target mage, so he has very good multipliers, but a bunch of things in his kit essentially turn him into an AoE beast with like straight up AoE coming from the ultimate, but these kind of chaining burst damages combining with whatever the heck extra high damage is, because it's not just a 400% boost, it might just be a 4x boost. It is crazy what he can do with his obliteration strike talent, with his ultimate, so on and so on. I think what sets him apart for me as the best normal AoE magic DPS in the game is he requires the least. At A0, as long as you skill him up, all these heroes you're going to want max skilled. It's a fairly modest investment though for such a high quality hero. That's kind of all it takes for him to absolutely start cooking. A lot of these other heroes need a handful of awakenings, need a bond skill, need this, that, and the other, an exclusive artifact. For Comet, he can just cook. That is very much the banner though. To be fair, if you're a brand new player or a fairly new player, these are excellent epics. Lightlock, this is a joke. He's not a bad hero, but how the heck do they get off to this day? What, 16 months since global release? Still putting fusion epics on banners. It is a dirty slap in the face. I see you, Moonton. Be better, do better. However, these other two, phenomenal, right? Maul is one of the 4 or 5 best epics in the whole game. And then Baron is a very strong epic who is the best in the game at one very specific thing, not dying. And you can do him as long as you get him A3. He is mindlessly easy, even with no skill ups, to use in Gear A2 and parts of Void Rift. These are very exciting epics, but that's a very niche case. So I'm talking to you right now. If you're a new player, you're summoning anyway, but obviously with the chance to get Comet and these very good epics, you definitely should be. For the vast majority of you though, it comes down to these legendaries. We have Beatrix, who is a brand new hero. So for your collection, for your Pokédex, you gotta catch them all. She's also fine as hell. Maybe you want her on your roster. Aside from that though, she is at best mid-tricks. Maybe then mediocre tricks or bad tricks or dog water tricks. Call it what you want to call it. She has Cratch range, and though she's probably this much better than Cratch, she is Cratch in magic form. She is not exciting. I just put out a very long showcase where I did hours and hours of testing her versus other cultist AoE DPS mages, and she is just, with this range and the limited DPS, she is a fart, man. She's a big old fart. If you want to go crazy, at A5, she's pretty good. She's like solid tricks or kind of good tricks or, oh, she's cooking a little bit tricks. At no point is she ever OP tricks or unbelievable tricks or triple S tricks, at least right now. I think she's a good candidate to get a great exclusive or some really good exclusive gear or a nice buff or a bond skill, so on and so on. But as it stands now, she is not the prize. She's not even the consolation prize. She is just something else there. It all comes down to Comet. Do you have good AoE DPS? We're going to discuss that in this video. And if you don't, very likely you need Comet. Naturally, it comes with an opportunity cost, so we're going to discuss what other heroes are coming soon, but Comet has been in the game since launch and has remained S+ quality every step of the way. Enormous magic burst, tremendous AoE, and a lot of content. He stands alone as the very best for it. There's a lot to discuss. Let's get into it.
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Okay, so Comet, we will spend 95% of the remainder of this video talking about. Very quickly with Beatrix, the multipliers are not very good. She does not summon enough of her summons, which are called Dream Eaters, and because she does not summon enough of them, they individually don't have enough DPS, 40% AoE magic damage, very unreliable slows. She just can't cook. If you get her A5, every time she ults, she summons 2 instead of 1. And additionally, the other way she summons her summons, the Dream Eaters, is when enemies die, she summons 1. You use her in a lot of AoE content, so enemies die a lot. If you get her A5, you have a 1 in 4 chance, a 25% chance. Each time she summons another one, it will actually be 2. That's huge. You need a lot of these. You really need like 4 to see her start doing proper damage. It's just not possible without the A5. And that means you need 6 copies for this chick, and even at A5, for my limited testing, I can do more if you guys want. It's not like she's amazing. She's just a lot better than dog shit. Okay, that's Beatrix. A lot of people are going to be pissed off when they get her. She will be very usable on very, very young accounts, but no one is skilling her up. No one is doing max skill ups, so she will not scale at all. She's going to fall off a cliff, and she's going to feel just like Magic Cratch every step of the way after the very early game. You know who is never going to feel like Cratch? Comet. This guy is totally bonkers. The multipliers are so good. Obliteration Strike is so powerful. His awakenings are nice, the A1 especially, just getting that extra target on Infernal Plague. This is his passive. But aside from that, the extended range, this is kind of buggy. The ultimate can only still be triggered when an enemy's in the original range, not the new expanded range, which kind of becomes like a vortex range, if you can imagine that, or a Twin Fiend ultimate range. But unlike Twin Fiend, who can trigger his ultimate when a hero's in the range of what his ultimate would be, Comet can't do that. They have to enter his normal, typical single target Comet range, which it really doesn't cut it. So for that reason alone, I don't like his A3. A4, this is such a joke when they do this on Legendary Heroes. This is 1 tick of passive rage costs per second, not 1%, just 1 tick. It is really nothing. And then finally, the extra chance for curse, it's phenomenal, but A5 Comet is not really a thing we have to talk about in this video. My point is, the awakenings are solid, they're not special. An A0 Comet is pretty close to a full potential Comet, as long as you fully skill him up, and you've got some Lord to run him with. Even just a Raiden, an epic Lord, is sufficient, and then all of a sudden, you have a disgusting Pharaoh killing machine on your hands. So, how about we head to the best website in the realm, Fastidious.gg, to talk about why this guy is so good. He is able to do things these other 2 are not able to do. Why have I singled out these 3? These are the 3 best normal. When I say normal, I mean non-ancient exclusive and non-lord heroes in the game for AoE magic damage. The other 2 kind of come with conditions and qualifications to really sing. Comet, like I said, A0, skill him up, that's all you need. So we'll go piece of content by piece of content, but first I want to talk about what limits Virna and what limits Boreas. The main thing with Boreas is you really want him at least awaken level 1. That awakening makes him far more self-sufficient as he is able to put out more consistent freezes. Let me show it to you right now. At awaken level 1, during the ultimate, the trigger chance of his talent increases by 40%. Typically, his talent is 10%. So basically, when he does any attack, he has a 10% to put out a freeze. During the ultimate now, every other hit is going to do it. It's a 50% chance. That is key because his whole kit is built around dealing massive damage when a freeze is inflicted. So typically, if you have like an A0 Boreas, you really need some other freeze hero like a Mari or an Eye or something to essentially enable him to be special. Once he does get Awaken level 1 though, he can kind of do it himself. And certainly once you get him Awaken level 5, he turns into a really special hero. His ult lasts an additional 10 seconds, which is pretty nutty, right? Because the ult typically lasts 30 seconds with skill ups. 40 seconds makes it the longest AoE DPS ult in the game. It is phenomenal, but that is a monstrous if, right? Comet does not have those ifs. He just is Comet. You don't need these special things. For Virna, Virna is as strong at this point in the game as these guys now. I'm being honest, but you need her exclusive artifact, which sure, it just takes 1 pull. At base level, it's already her best in slot, but without it, I mean, she's just not nearly as good. The execution is cool, but she's not as special as the other 2. This can be really easy to get, or it can be insanely hard, and you'll chase it for many, many months, if not longer. Essentially, this allows her to be permanently boosted in the number of targets she can hit, and allows her to permanently maintain a very high post-deployment attack boost because she doesn't keep consuming souls, she just holds on to them. I'm not getting into Virna's kit, this isn't about her, but that's a huge qualification. Moreover, for Virna to feel super special, she's really going to need her new exclusive gear, which is still coming, right? That will help her a lot, but again, it's a total crapshoot. With Comet, you need to pull him, you need to have skill up save for him, and you are ready to go. So I hope that makes it clear why I think he's so special. A lot of people watching these videos are people still progressing through the game. That's why you need me to explain this stuff to you. I hope that makes it clear why Comet is so good. With the littlest investment, he is already at top potential, and he's blowing these two out of the water, to be honest. Another thing with Boreas that we haven't talked about, but it's pretty obvious, I think. In a lot of key places in content now, they are making your enemy's crowd control effect immune. They can only really be slowed. That means they can't be frozen, which means Boreas can't really do much. His anti-heals are dependent on freeze. His massive damage is dependent on freeze. The enemies can't be frozen, he can't really do Boreas things. Comet can always do Comet things. So let's go through these. You'll see, I still give Virna an S+. Quite frankly, she would be an S, but she's like borderline S+, and the fact that she gives Silas the single strongest bond skill in the entire realm, in the entire game, that bumps her up to S+. But in terms of sheer base quality of kit, Comet is the only S+ of any AoE mage in the game. Let me actually show you this now. Kratos essentially can be a really good AoE DPS, but if you want strict AoE, Comet is better. Ingrid is better. However, she can be a little tricky if you don't have her A3. At A0 though, she's still far easier to build and she's pretty mindless. She's better than Comet. Aside from that, for strict AoE, there's no one else at his level. No one. Maybe like an A5 Ajax with God tier gear and his exclusive, but again, now we're getting into qualification after qualification. If we're talking about just sheer potential based off of what they're giving you with the kit, it's really Ingrid and then Comet in my opinion. And still, that being said, there are certain places where Comet will shine brighter than Ingrid. So back to these big three, let's go through it all. For Guild Boss, because Comet is coded as essentially a single target mage, but then he's got Major Burst and then becomes AoE on his ultimate, he can still kind of perform in certain single target content. He's kind of like a magic version of Hotsit in that way. Technically, Hotsit is set up not as an AoE hero, but a single target hero, even though she has maybe the strongest piercing damage or even physical damage AoE ult in the game. Very bizarre thing. Comet kind of gets the baby version of that. Again, still usable, but not a good option. This is really for early progression in Guild Boss 2, but once we get into the gear raids, he can really shine. Gear raid 1, he is the best burst hero in the game. There are very few heroes that are better than him for any role in Gear Raid 1, and if you just want sheer burst, it doesn't take such crazy gear if you've got Comet, Raiden, maybe a Laurel to boost him, a Dolores, and then any other supplemental DPS that will get the job done. For Gear Raid 2, Comet is the owner or the key feature in the second best, in my opinion, Gear Raid 2 strategy in the game. The best one is with Hotsit, and the easiest, the number one easiest in the game. If you have Comet, Laurel, and Dolores, that makes for the simplest, most mindless Gear Raid 2 run. Obviously, you got to deal with the timings, the pickups, the putdowns, but once you master that, as yours truly has, I've done it many hundreds of times, it's a cheat code. It's so easy because he's so bursty. It's very mindless, and it's a fairly low investment. Him and Hotsit require the least gear of any hero, and I mean literally any hero, to beat Gear Raid 2 stage 21. Gear Raid 3, he falls off a cliff for the later stages, as does any Magic DPS hero in the game. However, up through 18 and even 19, where he can do the left side, he is completely great. He totally works. He can hit so many targets, and he really just eliminates them. Starting at stage 20, they get really high magic resistance, and he's just not that good. But Comet is really nice there. And actually, I should probably give him a B+, because he's certainly better than Virna. And you can see, already Boreas kind of fallen off a cliff on a couple of these things. Gear Raid 4 now, he is the best burst in the game for a platform unit. The only better DPS for this in the whole game are going to be Thalen and Valkyria. Those are melee units. If you have seen my Gear Raid 4 Gear Dungeon 1 guide with Mari on the thumbnail, I show how to do it with Virna and Comet and no melee units, and Comet has the best burst for this in the entire game. Boreas, you can see, only gets a B because he falls off a cliff because they become freeze immune. Virna is also fantastic and gets her S+, however, the gearing requirement for her is a lot higher. Gear Raid 5, none of these guys are good options, but Comet is the best because early days, he can delete those magic lines where the Volca clones are physical damage resistant and they need magic damage. He falls off later, especially because of the limited range, but he is completely serviceable at the beginning. AMR, all terrible choices. Void Rift, he is shockingly fantastic. He's so good. All of these guys are so good. Same with Campaign. Faction Trials, same thing. I'll be honest, Boreas, if you get him and I going, that's the easiest combination of any faction trial, any faction, full stop. If we go now to the codexes, there is no codex right now for AoE magic damage, so there's just no need for these guys. So unfortunately, there really is nothing to talk about. But if we get into Guild Wars, maybe he's closer to an A+ now, but some of those Cyrus teams are just horrifying, and a well-built Comet, especially an A3 Comet, is just completely dominant. He's certainly stronger than these other two. For single target, there is use. For AoE, just with the current meta, we will actually bump this down to an S. Anti-air, certainly for progression, he's an S. Maybe this is closer to an A+ now. But as you can see, him and Boreas are the only ones really shining here. And in my opinion, he just is better than Boreas, unless your Boreas is like A5. But in that case, you don't need me to tell you anything. The point is, he is cream of the crop. So if you need help with AoE magic damage, if you need a good AoE mage, this is your guy. I got Comet on day 48 of my account, and it really changed everything. He is not such a monster investment like some of these other heroes. So before you decide you're going all in, right, we need to know what else is coming. The only huge game-changing unit looming over us in the next 4 to 6 weeks, I think that's certainly when we can predict he will come, is going to be Bubba, Beelzebub. In my opinion, he is must-have. However, if you're still early progression days, I do think a Comet, if you don't have an AoE mage, will make a bigger difference than Beelzebub if you already have like Constance and Dolores, for example. Bubba is going to have the strongest inspiration in the game with a 5x3 range. He's going to have the best AoE magic vulnerability in the game and the best AoE slows in the game, all while being an occultist, all while being a summoner, and clearly being designed to conquer a new meta or help create a alternative meta with, you know, these whole cultist summoner things they keep throwing at us with people like Beatrix, but better examples of that like Zarus and Honora, so on. So Beelzebub is really, really exciting. I think anybody that has like base level Comet, I don't think the Awakenings are worth it. Do not go for more. But if you don't have him and you're not already end game or very late game, I mean, you've clearly beaten all the Gear Raid 21s and have progressed very deep into the gear dungeons. If that isn't you and you need an AoE mage, it is time to buckle up and snag a Comet. Aside from that, we don't know of any other huge heroes coming. There's Tallulah, who I think is overrated, especially now that we have an Asandai and Midon as cleansers. Can she help some accounts? Indubitably. But is she that desirable? No. Is she on the level of Comet if we're just talking apples to apples, even though they're not both apples in this example? We're just talking about sheer abilities of heroes. It's not even close. Comet is like a borderline triple S hero. He's phenomenal. Tallulah ain't that. Aside from that, we've got Xena, who is very niche but extremely powerful. He's going to help you conquer a lot of things that aren't niche. So again, if you're progressing, this is pretty special. I really think it comes down to, do you already have Boreas and Virna? If you have both of them, I do think you can skip him, right? Do you already have a base Comet? I think you can skip it. I do not think you need the Awakenings. But if you don't have those things and you're still progressing in this game, this is a near must pull. I know that's tough to hear because we all love saving, but Comet is literally that good. I hope I made my point, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I have been Fastidious. This is Comet. Beatrix flippin' sucks. Good epics, though. Pretty fun banner. No one's reached out to me wanting me to do pulls. I also didn't announce a pulls party. If you're interested in a pulls party, you can just DM me directly or let me know in the comments. Otherwise, we're just going to skip this weekend. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you to R-Type for editing this video. I appreciate all you guys very much. Subscribe to the channel, notification bell, share with your mother, and I'll see you real soon. Bye.
Fastidious.